Hey there, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People, and Drugs. I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Amalia Fuadi with us. Hey, Amalia, it's really great to have you on the show. So pleased to have you with us.
Hey, hello, hello. Thank you so much, Sam, for the opportunities. I'm very happy to meet you and then speak to you on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. Now, you're a very funny person, and I think, our listeners, or, of course, I should talk about our one listener who I think we've probably only got one listener, and I'm going to call them this week, Michael. And I'm going to say, I think Michael is beside himself, wanting to understand your comedy origin story. Was it that you were the first ever captain of a comedy vessel thrown across the galaxy and having to work your way back to Earth comedy venues? How did it all start off?
Oh, that's very I really like this question to be honest, because like I always enjoy comedy. I've been like watching comedy online from years ago, even like way before COVID. And then I always wanted to do it myself. Like every time I'm like, I think I want to do it myself. I want to do it myself until a couple of years ago. I remember I was still with my ex-boyfriend, and then I used to tell him, "Hey, I want to do comedy." And then he was like, "Yeah, you could, but you have to find a community so that you're not just getting on the stage and then you bomb it and you're going to be sad and hating comedy." And I'm like, that makes sense. And then, life happened with school, uni, and so on. And then I was like, it didn't happen until last year. So I'm also very new in a comedy. So last year in February 2025, I was in a really bad heartbreak. And
Oh.
then, yeah, and then I was like, I want to do something. And I think it's just a destiny that I look on my Facebook feed, and then there's an advertisement of ultra comedy. I don't know if you've heard
Yes,
ultra comedy.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
ultra comedy. At that time, I was still living in Edinburgh in Scotland, and then I saw
Mm.
it and like, oh, ultra comedy, 8 weeks of free comedy course in Glasgow, and I was like, this is a sign. Sometimes you just like look at something and like, wow, I don't know if this is a sign or this is just algorithm and technology, I guess. And I'm like, okay, this is my time. So I decided to sign up, and it's actually like 8 weeks of free courses. It was really fun. So I started the course, and then at the end of the course, we have to do the showcase in front of 200 people. So I did the course. I met people with like 30, I can't remember, so 36 people, 36 comedian in my cohort. The teacher was amazing. She's very good, very inspiring. And then we did a showcase in front of 200 people in Glasgow, and then I was like, it was 5 minutes, and then I got on the stage and tell my jokes, and people laughed. And I was like, when you had like your first gig and it went so well, you're like, I think I've got potential.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's how it started in June 2025. And then I was like, because I live in Edinburgh, and if you heard about Edinburgh Fringe Festival, it's
Yes.
like huge comedy and art festival every August. My friends are like, do you not want to do anything for the Fringe? And I was, well, I think it's a bit too early. So I wasn't planning to do anything, but but at that time I found like there are some few open mic spots. So actually, like I thought like to go to the Fringe, you have to have your own show, which I guess it's still too early for me. But then like, oh, there are some few open spots, open mics. So that's I did it. So throughout the July, I've been doing a lot of gigs and then like preparing some stuff. And then I did my gigs during the Fringe, and a lot of people, and then they laugh. And I was like, this is amazing. So, well, obviously not all the gigs went well. Some nights it's just like I had a gig where I only have three people, and like, what, this is fine. So yeah, since then I've been gigging, and then September, October, and then I moved to London 2 months ago, early
Oh, really?
February. Yes, so now I'm based in London. And again, I feel like when I moved to London, I kind of restart
Mm.
stuff, because like in Scotland, I've already have like, okay, so this is some few nights, and people start to know me and so on. But now I moved to London, okay, and I have to restart again. But I really like London comedy scene because it's huge, a lot of variety, a lot of people, a lot of open mic nights. So I'm still trying to get to know people and get to know the scene and stuff. But what I learned from my comedy is like, I don't know, I feel like especially during the Fringe, it feels so nice when after I tell the jokes and then people laugh. It's just the feeling was like so nice. And then I don't know. I don't know. I feel like satisfaction. It's probably the, I was like dopamine, whatever the hormone is. I can't even remember. It's like dopamine or whatever. It just gives me a lot of satisfaction. And then I remember there was one time I had a midnight gig. And then after that, the audience was like, "Oh, thank you so much. You did great," and so on. And then they left the venue with, with smiling and laughing, with being lighthearted. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I found a new purpose of life. I know this sounds very, very naive for a new comedian, I must say, but I was like, I wanna make them laugh and I wanna make them happy. And it's just so nice when I can see them smile and laugh and yeah, having a great time, I guess. And then so that was the main thing. And then so most of my comedy, I like talking about culture shock and then about where I am from. So I'm originally from Indonesia. I moved to Scotland in 2021. So it's been a lot of like, oh, different cultures, different meeting different people and so on. And I just realized that I don't think there is any other Indonesian comedian based in the UK. I might be wrong. Maybe one of your audience is Indonesian comedian. They're like, no, that's me. Anyway, um, yeah. So I feel like, and people don't know too much about Indonesia because like people know a lot, like Malaysia or whatever. But I'm like, people don't really know Indonesia. They know Bali, but they don't know that Bali is not part of Indonesia. Anyway, it's part of Indonesia. So I was like, you know what? I think I want to introduce people to my origin, to my culture through comedy. And that's why like all of my comedy, it revolves around the story about being Indonesian or being Indonesian Muslim, Indonesian woman, and so on. So that's what I'm kind of like envisioning it to be, hopefully. But obviously I'm still exploring a lot of things. But I guess the idea was like I want more people to know about Indonesia. So yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Yes, and well, so many things there. I mean, I think I love what you're saying there about, you want to kind of like get across that perspective of the, your background, the Indonesian Muslim woman, and it's kind of, I think comedy, which is and can be fantastic fun. It's also a forum in which it's great to learn things. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
rather than going around and saying like,
absolutely.
everybody, you must learn this thing. Coming and presenting like ideas like that through the medium of comedy, how much more fun is that than just kind of like trying to get people to
Absolutely.
listen to whatever, rant about this, that, or the other. Well, that's a lot of my comedy, but anyway, no.
No, I completely agree. Because, like, for example, when I'm going to any live comedy show, or even online comedian from other countries, or even in the UK, I always learn new thing. Like, oh, I learn new thing about Romania, I learn new thing about Latin America, I learn new thing about UK, about I don't know, Coventry, about Liverpool. So you were right. It's really nice. And then sometimes when you go to school, you learn something to do the exam. But you're doing comedy, you just want to go and laugh, and then you ended up like, oh, something. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
That was brilliant. No, well, and I mean, it's well, yeah, you've got like a fantastic, unique perspective to share there, particularly like you say, coming to the UK. I mean, it's true. I don't know. I mean, on the comedy circuit here in the last 5 years in London, I've met people from all sorts of backgrounds. I can't think of anybody who has said explicitly that they're from Indonesia. So that's well, as you say, maybe we'll find out. Someone will well, we don't do call-ins, but someone will comment. And yeah, you mentioned a few things there. Ultra comedy, actually. So the guest last week, Nikki G, he also did ultra comedy, and I've seen that. That's obviously a great. I mean, it's a fan. It's sort of exciting as well that ultra comedy they kind of do. Don't they? They do like cage wrestling and ultra marathon and comedy,
Yeah.
and it's like it's
Yes.
funny that they put it in the same category. And you're like, oh yes, it's really cool. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah,
Nerve-wracking activities, like
right.
nerve-wracking activities.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and then you know at the beginning of your origin story, you were mentioning heartbreak. I think Lizzie Simpson a few episodes back was talking about a similar. Was it well, possibly it was also Ella Clark even. I started to get confused, but yeah, a lot of people have talked about sort of change points in their lives where they want to get out
Yeah.
there and do something different. Well, and it was interesting you mentioned you saw that ultra comedy advert just about that at that time. I'm just interested
Yes.
to hear a little bit more about. You say you used to watch comedy, and like as we were saying, I mean, for many people, comedy is like, oh my, I'm so embarrassed, I could never possibly do that. But it sounds like even before that opportunity, you were seeing it on television, and you were thinking, I'd like to give that a try. Did you have some other background of performance or anything at all?
Ah, Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, basically, I always enjoy public speaking, but never in a comedic way. Like in general, because I do a lot of presentation, a lot of
Mm.
speech, a lot of not TED talk, but kind of like presenting a science of or presenting my research for lay audience. I always enjoy that, but obviously, comedy is a bit different because I feel like what makes a lot of people um hesitant to do the comedy is that expectation because I remember I have a friend. He is really really funny, like when you were hanging up with him, it's like, oh, he's really funny, and then he could throw jokes and stuff. But then I asked him like, hey, do you not want to do stand-up comedy? And he was like, he said, I don't think I can stand the expectation because like with the stand-up
Mm.
comedy, you go on the stage and then people look at you and they're like, make us laugh, make us laugh. And then people are like, oh, when they're under pressure that they can't do that. And I completely understand that because I feel like to me itself, like I don't, I don't think I'm if people hang up with me, I don't think I'm the funniest human being ever. But before I go on this way, before I go on the stage, I always try to prepare. Like I wrote my script and then I highlight, oh, this is the punchline, this is a setup. I literally rehearse it and then memorize it and then practice it. So yeah, I think like a lot of people are super super funny or naturally funny, but being on the stage as a stand-up comedian, it takes a different thing because of the expectation of the nerve, but also from that I learn a lot of things as well that we can talk about it later on. But yeah, I do have background in public speaking, not like trained, but yeah, I do have a lot of public speaking activities and hosting and so on before.
Right, right, right. So that was kind of like, unlike some people for whom they would never want to put themselves in that situation, you'd already been it talking in front of crowds and
Yes,
and so on. So then,
exactly. It just needs to be funny.
yeah, 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 yeah. Indeed. Well, and I guess there's also, I mean, it sounds like you've got a bit of a, you're from the academic science side, and obviously for those kinds of things, you're preparing. This is what I'm going to say. This is the PowerPoint. This is the this, that, and the other.
Exactly.
And so you've
Exactly.
translated that directly into, okay, now I'm going to get up there and be funny, and I'll prepare,
Yep.
for that. And that makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful,
Yeah, I
wonderful.
do a lot of teaching as well. I do a lot of teaching, which I guess is also like, like I teach first year undergraduate students, and I feel like you
Right.
have to be a little bit more
Right.
entertaining. If you teach statistics at 9 a.m., you have to be like, hello, students.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I mean, I come from an academic background, and I've taught in many different formats over the years, and I've always enjoyed that aspect of presenting or talking and trying, trying to slip in, things to make it interesting and fun and so on. So yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover from that. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Well, and I was excited what you were talking about that. You're talking about the midnight gig when the people were smiling and laughing, and you were talking about how you felt you'd found, a new purpose of life. And I mean, the
Yeah,
way you're expressing it, with great articulacy, but yeah, that's such a lovely sentiment. You're saying, wow, I'm having this really positive effect on these people, and I love that, and I want to do more of it. That's pretty much it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
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 it makes me feel bad because I think, I love the people laughing, but for me it's a lot more ego. Like, I mean, I do want people to be happy. I mean, in an
yeah,
abstract sense, but there's a kind of, when people are laughing, I kind of like this is sort of therapy for me, but like there's a little bit of like I just feel really I do feel really positive, but I think there is a sort of a, on my side there's a bit of a, perhaps unfortunately, like an ego twist. I feel really good about myself, and it's,
mm,
but I think your way sounds like the right way, and mine is a bit the dark side. I would love to emulate, or be more like you. That sounds like it's such a wonderful
well, I
perspective.
would, I would say I don't think you should feel bad about it.
Mm.
It's like I'm not saying like it doesn't make me feel happy and it doesn't increase my self-esteem. It was obviously it's kind of like, oh wow, I think like I'm funny and I'm good and I'm cool. But yeah, I think it's very normal as a human to have that desire. And I don't think you should feel bad. And anyone who listen to this, if you feel like, oh, I'm so selfish feeling this way. No, no, no. Actually, you have to prioritize yourself. Then you do what make you happy.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, well, you've turned that around and made me feel wonderful about it. That's it. What a wonderful talent to have. That's brilliant, brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, we often sort of talk. We go into more detail about people's first gigs or what have you, but you've sort of already covered that. And so maybe we'll slide into our second question, which is how is technology affecting your life and your comedy? And as I always say at this point, technology is a very wide range of things. A pencil and paper that I'm using now to take notes, that is a form of technology. The latest AI model that can generate, videos or potentially even jokes. So it's a broad brush, even like memory techniques. I mean, it's sort of, I'm very interested in technology and how it's affecting your life and comedy, but I'm also really interested in how, your comedy process works and how you come up with jokes and what works for you. Yeah, please tell.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I think that's really what is it like up to date, no, like really what's how you say it in English, it's like this is
Probably,
the thing when
probably
English um
open-ended question.
yeah, but also really like a relevant question,
Oh,
like
okay. Right.
technology.
Right. Yeah, you're
So yes,
relevant. Yes,
and
yes,
that's the
yes.
thing, it's like, it's like English is not my native language, so it's kind of like sometime after 6 o'clock I'm like my brain frozen, but hopefully I can
Ah.
articulate myself. um yeah, to me, the most important thing about technology and my comedy is the social media. I don't know if
Mm,
that counts as like technology. It
absolutely.
probably
Yeah, yeah,
does.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So for example, I've never had Instagram in my life until I started comedy last year in the summer 2020, because I thought like I have Facebook. I always have Facebook as, like getting messenger and connect with some people and stuff. But like Instagram was like, no, I don't want to have Instagram. It's too much, it's a lot, and so on and so forth. I also have a lot of friends who actually do kind of like, oh, they deactivate Instagram for like some time to detox and so on. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I want to have Instagram. And then after I started my first gig, and then I think it went well because people laugh. And then after a few weeks, I'm like, I think I really need to make an Instagram, like first to connect with people, because I realize every time I go to the gig, people are like, oh, hey, what is your Instagram? Like I want to share something. So it's basically, that's how people connect. And then I realized that's also a way to promote ourselves as a comedian. This is our next gig. This is some of the video clips. This is some of the reels and posts and so on. I think it's very important. And also some, or like a lot of, I think like majority of gigs, they are Instagram. They're announced on Instagram, and then they expect us to follow them on Instagram. So I feel like, what, I think I have to make Instagram, and that makes a big change, I guess, with technology, because now, well, although like yeah, I feel like with Instagram is good because like our comedy can be enjoyed by people from different places. For example, I'm doing comedy talking about Indonesia in the UK. Obviously, my Indonesian friends and family, they can't come here and see me, but they can still enjoy my comedy because I put some of the clips on my Instagram, linked on my Facebook. So that's good. However, I'm also a bit thorn with the people watching comedy online. Again, like, sorry, yeah, like it's good, but also I don't want, I hope that does not discourage people to support live comedy. Because
Right.
sometimes I heard like, oh, like, why do I have to come to live comedy? Why do I have to book a ticket and then go to open mic? I can just go to your Instagram or my favorite comedian's Instagram and then watch from there, or YouTube or so on. So it's kind of like, I hope social media will help with reaching people who are not able to go to the live comedy because of distance or anything. But if you can, I would encourage all the audience who listen to this to support live comedy, because believe me, it's different. Like I have like a lot of like a lot of my favorite big name international comedians. I watch them on YouTube, I watch them on Instagram, and then when they came to London, they came to Scotland, I will always buy the ticket, and it always feels really, really different. So yeah, I would say, like, I know you audience here, people who listen to this podcast, yeah, I know like social media, it's really good that you can reach your favorite comedian, but believe me, like going to the live comedy, it's completely different. Also, like if you're in London, there are a lot of open comedy mics and they're free. So, there is no excuse not to support live comedy. So support live comedy. Yeah, and so that's on technology. And then you mentioned earlier about maybe AI can help writing jokes. I don't know about that. Like I see some AI. poster AI made posters, and it just feels different. I don't know. It's like I saw a few posters, not about comedy, like posters for general events made by AI, and to me it just feels different, and sometimes it's just weird. Like I saw there was like a one poster for dance event, and they have like a people dancing, and then they have like more than 10 fingers or something. It's just so weird. So I'm not too optimistic about how AI can completely replace creative jobs. However, well, they might get better if we keep training that in the future, but I guess like humans' creativity will always keep up with that. And you said something about AI write jokes. Well, well, I tried. Not like I tried making jokes, but I just tried like, hey, what do you think? Like make jokes or something. It's not good. Like honestly, it's just not it's just not good. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but it's just like no, this is not good. The quality is not good. But so to me, as a person, sometimes I feel guilty of using AI to write something. Yeah, I might use AI to ask them, is it grammatically correct or does this make sense? Again, like one of my challenges in writing jokes in English is I feel pressure to be like, this has to be grammatically correct. So sometimes, but anyway, I asked AI to check if this word makes sense, but the idea itself, I don't think they can beat humans' creativity for now. Um, yeah, that's why I'm saying for now because we'll never know, to be honest. My creative writing process is I don't know if I can explain it because that's what it's called creative because you never know. But I realized one thing. I realized that I always get inspirations when I travel.
Mm.
I remember I got like one of my opening line when I was on the plane from where from Italy, and then I got some of the experiences when I traveled to Scotland from London. So I think every time I'm traveling, I get some new ideas. Even though it's not necessarily about traveling, but I think it's just the idea of changing places.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Yeah, so I think it's a bit like I don't know if there's a formula to the creative process, but I guess it's just it just happened and it's probably like miracles and inspirations. Oh yes, I also like because I like watching comedy. Like I like doing comedy, but I also really enjoy watching comedy. Sometimes I got inspirations from the comedy that I watch, but not necessarily like inspiration doing the same jokes, but like where to go from this. I remember I was watching comedian and then they did something and I was like, oh, actually I can make punchline by doing this thing. So that's what I kind of like that was I kind of do. So I think it's also very, very important if we are doing a creative jobs, we also watch other people. So sometimes I feel like sometimes people are just too focused on um like okay, we're creating. For example, like people focus to write, but kind of they forgot to read, or like people focus to speak, but that they forgot to listen. I feel like if you, yeah, to be a better writer, you also have to be a better reader, and then to make a better performer, you also have to be a better audience. I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah, those are
Yeah.
kind of things that help me with my thinking.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think, yeah, absolutely. I think, observing things while you're traveling. I mean, I guess there's something about traveling that you're not quite in the regular routine. So you're doing something different. So it's maybe easier to
Mhm.
notice things. I mean, that's, I think, travel very good for the soul. And then that's really
Yeah.
interesting what you're saying about enjoying watching comedy and then getting inspiration from, yeah, the sort of direction that the person is going or the mechanism that they're
Yeah.
using. I mean, I one of the things I try and do is I mean this is I talked about on the show before is try and write 10 jokes a day. This was suggested by Callum Mackenzie, who was on the show, who got that
Ah.
suggested to him on a course. And I find that when I'm so I mean the live comedy I tend to watch is the shows that I'm running or I'm on. And what
Yeah.
I tend to be doing is as I'm listening to the other comedians, I'm just
Mhm.
listening out for little phrases, and it's like not necessarily the phrases that they're using for the joke. Like for example, I don't know if
Mhm.
you know the show Mock the Week, which is it's back on, and I'm quite a fan. But
I've
so
heard,
so
yes.
yeah, there was a phrase like they have one of the games that they were doing, and the one of the comedians, I forgot his name now, but he just used the phrase "My life is in ruins." He was talking about Peter Mandelson, and it's just like a sort of it's an idiom, it's expression, and he didn't use it as a joke. I mean, it was just sort of like he was illustrating, for this person where his like he was pretending to be that person, and I thought, oh, that's
Yeah.
really interesting, and then I sort of ended up taking that little phrase, and I was like, oh, my life is in ruins. I wish I hadn't taken that job as an archaeologist. I'm glad you're smiling there. Just for the audience, like who might thought there was no laughter whatsoever. But Amalia's, I think the Zoom is cutting out your raucous laughter. No, but so not suggesting that that is the most fantastic joke in the world. But what I find myself doing now is whenever I'm listening to comedy, I'm kind of basically, I mean, often I'm the MC, and so I kind of like I take little
Yeah.
notes to try and because I'm going to try and find a tag off of different things. But I'm also just on the lookout for interesting turns of phrase to see if I can turn them into, if they could be used as some part of a little springboard in a joke. But I really like what you're saying, which is about the direction and the mechanisms. I'm just at the cusp at the moment of thinking I need to be thinking about maybe explicitly more about different kinds of mechanisms because what I tend to be doing is like I was saying I just find those little phrases and then I kind of like throw them at the wall until something comes out but
Mm.
yeah I'm not kind of like actively like thinking about the mechanisms as much. And I think that's a really valuable thing to be doing. So thank you for suggesting that.
Yeah. Although, like, I must say it's kind of a bit difficult because like now because I'm also doing comedy and learning comedy. Sometimes when I watch comedy, I don't enjoy it. I don't fully enjoy it, as in like not like that. It's more like I watch and then I learn. Like I'm thinking instead of enjoying it. I'm like, okay, oh,
Mm,
this is the premise. This is this setup. This is the punchline. And to be honest, I don't want that. So I wanna keep enjoying comedy, and that makes
mm,
sense because like for example, I watch comedy and then I still want to do. Yes, I'm learning, but also I don't want to just learn. I still want to
mm,
enjoy it and laugh and so on because that's how I started. Like I started comedy because I enjoy comedy and I don't want to lose that enjoyment because if this is becoming too serious, then I will, like not like I'm not taking this seriously, but I also don't wanna lose the joy of it. And the way for me to maintain it for now is I only do gig maybe like twice a week maximum or
okay.
twice or three times because I don't want to give a space, and I tend not to do gig back to back on the day. So I like to do like maybe Tuesday and then Thursday or Monday and Thursday and so on. So I have a day in between where I can just go to random open mic and then like watch and enjoy or just have time for myself because I don't want to be
Mm,
overwhelmed by this, at least like for now, because this is kind of like yeah, well, if I'm becoming a professional comedian in the future, you never know. But again, like for now, I think I want to watch comedy and be able to enjoy comedy because I don't want to lose that enjoyment.
absolutely. No, I know completely what you mean. It definitely, I can find, I mean, particularly they had this break, like, so Mock the Week kind of like stopped for a few years and it's just restarted. And it's kind of like now I'm watching it, having been doing comedy for coming on 5 years, like
Yeah.
doing it like sort of seriously and relentlessly. And yeah, I mean, I think I absolutely, I don't want to lose that enjoyment. There's some of it now, of course, when I'm judging some of the jokes differently, or I'm like seeing the mechanisms differently. I think there still is
Yes.
some joy, and yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a total, it would be a very big
Yeah.
shame if we were to lose that
Yeah.
joy. But yeah, so,
Absolutely.
I'm just out of interest. So you were talking about sort of observing things when you're traveling and what have you, and then do you write those down in a notes app in your phone? Do you sort of store them for later and review them and tweak them, or what's the process of going from the
Yeah.
observation to something you might say on stage?
Yeah, I usually just write it on my phone
Yeah.
because I have notes on my phone. I don't really like recording my voice because sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not used to it, so I just write it on my notes on the phone. But sometimes I deliberately not write them right away. So usually when I have something, oh, this is nice, this is gonna be a nice opening line, and then I forget it, and then I'm testing it. If I still remember it the next day, if I still remember it, that's how I know this is solid. I think I,
Interesting.
I do that. I do that a couple of times with some of my jokes, and I'm like, okay, I think this is okay. I still remember it, so it means it's pretty good. And then I write it down. Sometimes I just let it sink, Although I don't know, I feel like a lot of people I think that the most common way is just you remember something and then just write it. I think that's probably better because you have a lot of things, like you can stock up a lot of things. But sometimes I just like just deliberately leave it and then let's see if I can remember it tomorrow. And then if I remember it, then that's a good joke. But sometimes I feel like it's a good joke and then I left them and then like, wait, I think
Yeah.
yesterday I don't remember. So it's probably, I don't know, like do what works, I guess, for people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it's really interesting because I think I sort of like, quite
Yeah.
obsessively write everything down, because I'm like so worried about not remembering things. But I do remember actually this was, I don't know if this
Yeah.
is true or not. Apparently, the Beatles, they used to do, I think this was John Lennon, Paul McCartney. They would basically write a song on I don't know if it was a Friday and come back in on a Monday or what have you. But they wouldn't write the song. They would just see could they remember it the next day, and that was the test of whether they felt it actually had some quality. So I think you're using
Okay, okay.
a great
Okay,
technique there.
wow. Now I feel validated.
Yeah, I
But I
mean it's
think what you do is probably also good, because like you just like write it and then you never know maybe something good come up out of it, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I mean partly for me it's I want to get everything down because I'm kind of on this quota system, which I mean is like I want to try and like go through the exercise of writing as many things that are
Yeah.
actually structured like jokes. And I'm not
Yeah.
the idea is not that these will then all be used, but it's just like going through the process. And I'm finding myself that actually on a bigger time scale, like I've got the jokes that I now use somewhat repeatedly, and they are a function of the ones that I can remember. And of course, sometimes I think, oh, there were some other good
Mm.
ones that maybe that I should reuse, but I can't really remember them, and I can't be bothered to go back and watch the old videos. But I've got, yeah, I mean, I guess I feel better now. The idea that okay, the ones that I'm remembering to use are at least because then of course I worry: is it because they're easy to remember rather than funny? That's like they stick in my mind, but
Ah, I see
am
what you
like am
mean.
I but anyway, I mean, there is a danger of
Yeah.
overthinking these things because it's all about having fun.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, but I guess I feel like I heard from someone that you have sometimes yeah, a bit the jokes have to be really good, but also how you deliver it. And I feel like
right,
if you still remember jokes, that means it's you, and then maybe and you're really confident with that. And then if you deliver that joke with confidence, even though that's not the funniest joke you could have ever written,
right.
it can be funny. So I think that's probably like a good thing in that as well. Or maybe I'm just too positive because I was trying to find the good things and everything. I don't know.
That seems like a good strategy. I mean, if we want to feel good about things, let's find the good things to focus on. So that sounds absolutely great. Yes, yes. Well, and so many other interesting things you were saying. You talked about coming on Insta. I have exactly that experience. I mean, I had like made an Instagram account, oh, like 15 years ago, and
Mm.
posted a couple of things and then never used it. Like I had no, I just didn't, I never followed why is it? And obviously it became huge. And then
Yeah,
I started doing
yeah,
regular comedy about 5 years ago. And people
yeah,
were like, yeah, exactly as you said. And so,
yeah,
I've been on Instagram ever since. Oh, I love what you were saying about, the shout out for supporting live comedy, which I think is, absolutely. I think the key thing that I would say to anybody, I mean, I think our audience is largely comedians, but to anybody who was unsure about this kind of thing is that the comedy kind of gets forged in live rooms. I think that there is obviously there are people who kind of make sketch comedy and sort of like situation comedy specifically for Instagram, and the feedback that they're getting
yeah.
is based on the number
Yes.
of likes, and but I think there's a different kind of comedy that evolves through a live performance. And if you kind of
Yeah.
say, well, why would I ever go and bother watching it? You're kind of depriving the fuel for the fire, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna end up with a different
Yeah.
kind of thing if you're not going to go and
Yeah.
see it in person. But I
Yeah.
love what you're saying about the accessibility. I do this. I also do like a virtual reality comedy, and it's been amazing
Mm.
to there are people like so the other night I was performing, and there was a lady who'd been in a car accident and was sort of like trapped in her bed and couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And and I've met people in wheelchairs or people who've got like missing
Yeah.
limbs or what have you, who I mean, very frustratingly, many of the comedy venues in London, there's so many of them, are not fantastically
Yes.
accessible.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I mean, I think the virtual reality is kind of like a bit of a halfway house where they can experience a bit more of the live experience. But when they
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
get to
yeah.
those certain sorts of venues, I think it's a good middle ground. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good idea. I've never thought of it actually, virtual reality comedy. I will check it out. Yeah, never thought of it.
Yeah,
It's
but
cool.
there's some clips of me doing it in on my Instagram, which we can put in the show
Amazing.
notes.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. And yeah, well, no, that covers. I mean, w would you say that all these different kinds of technologies are affecting your life at all? Is your life very different from like as a result of having access to all the different kinds of technology, or does it just seem like same old, same old?
It's definitely changing. Like for example, with Instagram, obviously, so now I pay a lot more attention with social media. Like, okay, now I think I have to post a story, and then I have to post something like clips or reels and so on. But again, I'm trying to be a bit more moderate in it. I don't want to be too obsessed with like how many likes I get. I am obsessed with it, I must say, because social media is addictive, and I'm not ashamed to admit that sometime after I post it, I keep looking and like, okay, how many views, how many likes, and yeah, and sometimes I'm upset, like, oh, I feel like this is a really funny reels, but why, not a lot of people watch it, or sometimes I just post something random and then it got really popular in a way, not like super popular, but got a
Mm,
lot of good views and comments. So I was like, yeah, I'm trying not to. I would say I'm a bit obsessed with it, but I'm trying to control myself. Like just post it and then let the universe works. I guess that's how I kind of keep my sanity because I've heard a lot about, people are really stressful towards the social media and like, obsessive and oh, how many likes I get and so on. So I'm trying to be like a bit more sane, like a bit
yeah,
more
no, that
balanced with
seems
that.
very sensible. It's definitely a bit of
Yeah.
a danger. I mean,
It's
I do.
yeah.
You're saying addictive. I definitely find myself checking it much more than I would necessarily like to,
Same.
and I yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sort of
Yeah.
I find Instagram is particularly frustrating in that regard. Is I want to be checking the messages because there are people who are saying, oh, I couldn't make it to the gig, or there's like sort of perhaps somewhat important messages to be looking at.
Yeah.
But they don't, unlike Facebook Messenger, where you can, in principle, just look at the messenger. They don't. In Instagram, the interface is such that you kind of it's very difficult to avoid, seeing a few things. So they just want to pull you in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but also sometimes it's just it plays around with with self-confidence. For example, if I see my friends who started a comedy not long after before me, or same as me, and like, oh wow, they got so many gigs, they got so many this and that, and I started to be like, oh, am I not doing great, and so on and so forth. So I think that there is a danger in social media, which this is not new. I think everyone has been talking about it. So yeah, if any of these people who listen to this podcast, just make sure that you also have, your boundaries with social media. It's good, it's important, but your health is more important than that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird kind of envy machine. I think we had Matthew Alley on the other week
Yeah.
who was talking about how he very carefully doesn't scroll Instagram in the morning, and I think that's like you say, having those boundaries. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at like not looking at it until after breakfast, but I find
Really
myself
good.
last thing at night, and I'm saying to myself, I probably shouldn't look at this, but I'm gonna, and
No, you can't. No.
it's oh goodness me. But well, one final thing on this section, we were talking. You were like not very inspired by AI's writing jokes, and I think across the board, AI have not been fantastic at writing jokes. I mean, actually, it's a sort of a hobby of mine is as a research area, and I think that over time it will change. But I think, and as we were talking to Lizzie Simpson the other week, I think we absolutely don't want AI's involvement in comedy to lose that human creative process. Like I think one of the most fun
Yeah.
things about comedy is coming up with your own joke and then
Yeah.
evolving it and trying it out and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
we had a couple of people, I think both Denzel Cristo and Gareth Beavis, talking about using AIs as kind of writing assistants. So, like Denzel Cristo, who was on our 50th episode the other week, he runs these writing workshops and he asks AI to
Mm.
come up with sort of exercises for, like
Yes.
these sorts
Yep.
of things.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and Gareth was sort of like working
Yeah.
on a kind of a comedy writing assistant. And I think
Yep.
in terms of like, well, and I mentioned that to segue into like apart from the just like occasionally writing things down or maybe not writing them down and seeing if you remember them, do you have any other kind of structured process where you, let's say, you do morning pages or you write just before you go to bed, or is there any in terms of like right, or do you occasionally say, right, I'm going to take this idea and I'm going to do it like twist it three different ways, or do you have any techniques for developing the material or anything like regular rhythm that you have, or is it all just
Yeah.
and there's no judgment here. I think it's whatever works for you. Is it all just ad hoc as and when you remember it?
Yeah. I used to, somebody used to tell me, oh, no, no, I think I read a book. I read a book. I think everyone that's the book, the Comedy Bible.
Hmm.
They suggested that we spend at least like 5 minutes per day, constantly, like every day to write something.
Hmm.
I used to do that before I moved to London. When I was in Scotland, I tried to like spend, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, depend on the flows, the flows in my brain, to like sit and then write the joke. Sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it works. And then so that happened before 2026, and then 2026 I have like a lot of things going on in deadlines and work and school and so on. So I haven't really got back into it. I really want to, and I hope I will start after this interview, hopefully, because like now I feel like, yeah, I should go back to that. Yeah, so that's what I used to do, like just like few minutes every day, or not like every day, at least, Monday to Friday, the
Sure,
first thing
weekdays.
when I
Yeah.
after I open my laptop, before work and before uni. Um or the way I tweak my jokes is basically I just write it and then perform it in the open mic, and then see the feedback from people, and then
Mm.
if I like it, then just just continue. And then if I don't like it, I usually start with, I don't know, I'm still exploring because I'm
Mm,
fairly
mm,
new. But I
mm,
guess like the first thing that I do is trying out different delivery, because there are a few jokes that I believe it. Like I believe this joke is funny. I believe
mm,
there is a potential in it, but I don't understand why people don't laugh. But I also got somebody told me that laughter is very interesting process. Sometimes it's not about you, but sometimes it's about, I don't know, maybe the weather was bad, maybe it was too cold, and then, or like maybe people are just in a bad mood in general, or maybe, I don't know, it's just like, don't beat up yourself too much, I guess that's what people say. So sometimes when I try something and like, why people don't laugh, but I believe in that joke, I will keep doing that joke, but maybe trying out different delivery, maybe the pace, or maybe the placement of the jokes in a set. So yeah, I usually start with that, but depends on how much I believe in that joke. There
mm,
are some jokes that I kind of like, this is okay, but this may not work. In that case, depends. And then if there is a joke that I kind of believe but not too sure, I will test it. And then if it doesn't work, okay, I might have to change the punchline, or change the or cut the fluff or anything. But
mm,
yeah, if I believe in my jokes, I will be keep doing it. Just change how I deliver it, or maybe just change, because like I feel like every comedy club, they have a different type of audience. Maybe some jokes work with um comedy club where you have a lot older audience, because there was a gig that majority of the audience are 70 years old, or like pensioner and
mm,
so on. So maybe this
mm.
joke is not doesn't work with them. But then if I brought this joke to um different demographic groups, it might work. So yeah, just keep testing it, and then yeah, just tweak out how you deliver, or maybe the punchline, or maybe just, yeah. Yeah. I remember there was a joke that I tried 3 times. It didn't work and I almost give up. And then I tried again the 4 times, and then it works with few people. So I'm like, okay, this is actually not too bad.
Amazing. Yes, I think many people do say that they will try it three times and then give up. But it is, as you say, it's such a strange thing. Like, I mean, sometimes, I mean, I've got recordings of where people laugh at some of the things like I've been emceeing. I think one time in particular, I was having a conversation with a person in the audience, and I just asked them the question, "Is it?" and raised my eyebrows, and people
Yeah.
really laughed, more than at, some of the actual jokes. And I was just sort of like, I don't know why they laughed at that way of saying
You
it. There was
you
just
never
something,
know,
uh,
yeah.
and then it's like, how do we repeat
Yeah,
that?
and sometimes it's the fun of it. It's just like you just don't know. You just don't know. Maybe you just say exactly, you just say something like, "Is it?" And then maybe it's the way you say it, maybe your voice at that night, maybe the person that you were
Right.
interacting with. It's, yeah, it's really it's fascinating to think.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fa as you say, it's a fascinating thing, and I'm yeah, really interested to hear about your process there. Yeah, I mean, I've got now a new commute where I'm usually heading into the city, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and
Yeah.
that's I've got some time on the train, and I've been doing some sort of free writing around existing jokes
Mm.
or existing parts of my current show, and yeah, that's been I think making time for writing, where you can, it's like Seinfeld says, got to be every day, but I think whenever you can find those little moments,
Yeah.
it's definitely a
Yeah.
valuable
Yeah.
thing.
And
Fantastic, yeah,
and that's where the technology helps with, with
right.
phone that can have notes and recording. It makes that kind of things easier. I also have some of my sets written in, not like some, like all of my sets, I wrote them in, and then I saved them in a cloud, and I have that on
Mm,
my phone. So sometimes I
mm.
can just edit it from my phone, and that's where technology changes and helps me with my comedy life.
Yeah, yeah, fascinating, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well, let's I'm really enjoying the conversation. Let's move it on to our third question, which sometimes
Sure.
gets answered, but I think hasn't in this case, but is about the people that have had the biggest impact on your life and comedy, and that could be people from your personal life, the names of the comedians that you look up to, the names of the comedians that you've met, but anybody. I mean, it's any people
Yeah.
and who've had a big impact on your life and comedy.
Um, yeah, so this is we're talking about comedy. Obviously, there are a lot of people that impact my life, but in the comedy, I remember. So back to the Ultra Comedy UK. I don't know if you or the audience is familiar of how it works, but basically with Ultra Comedy, so it's a 8 weeks of free courses, and then at the end of the course, we get a chance to perform. But in order to get a spot to perform, we have to sell 10 tickets at least, and then so if you manage to sell at least 10 tickets, you get a spot, and then if not, then you don't get a spot. You can still get to the classes for 8 weeks, but you don't get a spot. So at that time I remember, okay, I have to sell at least 10 tickets, but the ticket price was so expensive. The ticket price is 25 pound, yeah. And I was like, oh, like 25 pound is a lot because I'm a student. So and most of my friends are student, although I have like non-students friend. But again, 25 pounds is a lot. And then I live in Edinburgh and the show is in Glasgow. So if people actually want to watch me, they have to get the ticket, 25 quid. And then they have to travel to Glasgow, which is, let's say if you take trains, it's like 15 quid. So roughly like 40 quid just to watch me doing a comedy for 5 minutes for the very first time in my life with no guarantee that I would be funny. So I was a bit like I was a bit kind of like, what if I can't manage to sell 10 tickets, right? If the show was in Edinburgh, I would probably be able to convince people, but this is in Glasgow. So, but you know what? I would, but obviously, like if I can't manage to sell 10 tickets, I can buy 10 tickets by myself. Like, I can spend 250 quid, but again, I'm a student and I can't afford that. Um, but I tried. Yeah, so I basically like message people and then put on my social media, which was Facebook, only Facebook at that time. And then I message some of my family members as well that I know could afford it. And then yeah, some friends in Edinburgh, and then some yeah, and you know what? I managed to sell. I don't remember how many because they don't give us the detail, but definitely I got friends. More than 10 friends came from Edinburgh to Glasgow to watch my show, which means I managed to sell more than 10 tickets, and I was I feel like it was so precious. Is that the word, precious?
Precious,
Because
yes, absolutely.
yeah, because like people they don't want to, like, they bought the ticket not to enjoy comedy but because they want to support me.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, I feel like until now I still remember who bought my ticket and then who came to my very first show. And at some point in life, if I make it into the comedy, like those people, there's more than 10 people, they will receive like a big thank you for me. Because if they didn't get, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional here, but if they didn't get my ticket at the time, I wouldn't be able to perform in the ultra comedy, and I wouldn't be able to be a comedian. So they actually like the investor, the angel investor who believe in me while I have nothing. If I can be a bit more dramatic, like they just believe in me. I just tell them like, hey, I'm doing a comedy. and I really want to perform. In order to perform, I need to sell the ticket, and it's 25 quid. And they're like, oh yeah, I'll get a ticket. There are some friends who bought, and the other things, like there are some friends who actually were not in the UK. They were abroad during my show, but they still got the ticket because they want to support. They were just like, I bought your ticket, just send me your video. And I was like, thank you so much. Like you believe in me when, yeah, when I have nothing. Well, I still have nothing now, but like at that time,
Ah,
I was like, so yeah, that's kind of the, I don't know. It's like loyalty, help. Yeah, yeah. I guess like those first people who believe in me, like will never forget about them. And yeah, I don't. I'm always emotional when I'm thinking of them because I wouldn't be like this if they was not because of them.
right, rightly. So what a wonderful, wonderful story. I mean, I feel the emotion. I hope our listeners as well can feel. I mean, it is. I mean, partly I'm emotional of like, wow, this is a real bringer gig that Ultra Comedy is doing. I mean, they're like, you can see the sort of marketing structure of Ultra Comedy, like of okay, we're £25 and everybody has to bring 10, and wow. But that to one side, no, that's fantastic, and exactly as you say. I mean, that's so lovely to have a social group of friends and family who are willing to put that in and support you in that way. And I mean, you're just saying, you've got nothing now, you've got lots now, you've got everything. I mean, just by virtue of like the positivity and the energy and the charm on this podcast, you have lots going for you, and I can see why everybody would help and support you because
Oh,
it's like no, but what a wonderful
now
story.
you,
No,
now you make me more emotional. I don't want to cry.
but no, that's it. It is wonderful, wonderful support. Well, it makes me think back to the comedy course that I did, and we had to
Mhm,
bring people, and it was just post COVID. It was difficult, and I really
mhm.
appreciate the support that I got from my relative Nick Joseph, who came to see the show. And but I was like, wow, that was. I'm just thinking, to get 10 people, I would have really struggled. But yeah, fantastic. Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, we can't top that, but there is, there are some more questions which we'll move on
Yes,
to.
yes, yes, of
Uh,
course, yeah.
um, so yeah, our penultimate question is how do drugs affect your perception of reality? And of course, we say drugs in the title of the show, and it sounds like we're talking about like evil illegal drugs. But I mean, I'm using the term. I mean, that's like a sort of like clickbait on get people to listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
But and sometimes that works. We had Andy Zapp, who's like 77-year-old amazing comedian who in
yeah,
the '60s was doing heroin and other things that I didn't even know the names of. And but that's rare. We've got a lot of comedians who are on the show who don't take any
yeah,
they don't take any illegal drugs. There's lots of different people who have different experiences with prescription drugs of one kind or
yep,
another. I think it's when we use the term drugs, it's like all of those things. And of course, caffeine and alcohol are also drugs. And even we had Will and Marla talking about fast food, and who was
oh
it?
yeah,
Samuel Day talking about chocolate. And so I'm really interested in any substances, benign,
yeah,
whatever, and how they affect your life and indeed how you see the world. Maybe you can't focus until you've had a first cup of coffee in the morning. Yeah. How are things for you?
yeah. Yes, you mentioned two things actually that I feel like I'm addicted to, just caffeine, coffee, and chocolate. Yeah, 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 yeah. Although with chocolate, I still want to be a bit more careful, because like it has sugar in it, and I try not to consume too much sugar because of like health and so on and so forth. But caffeine, I love coffee, and I'm at the stage of if I don't have coffee in the morning, I will have headache.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel
I
like
used to
all
be
my
there.
energy, I think
Mm.
all of my energy it comes from caffeine. Although I don't think I'm that crazy in caffeine because like I know a lot of people drink, I don't know, maybe like 6 espresso in a day or something. No, I'm not that crazy. I just drink like between 2 and 4 shots of espresso.
Okay.
It's pretty moderate in a way, but I feel like caffeine gives me I don't know if this is just this is just placebo or there's an effect. I feel like I'm a lot more productive when I work and I drink something that has flavor. Like for example,
Mm.
when I'm typing,
Mm.
and this is going beyond comedies, like even for work or for uni or for anything. I feel like when I type on my laptop, I have to sip something, and it can't be water. It has to be
Mm.
like coffee or tea or I don't know, chai
Hmm.
matcha and so on. So it has to be something with flavor. Um, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of really weird because I like when I'm typing and then every few minutes I will be like sipping the drink. So I think it's the caffeine itself, but also it's probably my I don't know my I don't know. It's just like just wanna drink something something with flavor. But obviously I feel like caffeine give energy and I can work a lot faster when I'm having coffee. But also but I try not to have caffeine after 4 o'clock. So I only drink caffeine before 4. But I like the taste of coffee. So if I'm doing something in the afternoon, I would do decaf. And that's what the good thing about coffee in the UK is like you have a lot of decaf options because when I'm back to Indonesia, there's no decaf
Oh, really?
options. Not like no, but maybe in like chain coffee shop like
Right.
Starbucks, you can have decaf. But if you just go to local coffee shop, it's like boys, like it's not really common. Maybe it's getting common nowadays, I don't know. But back then, at least like 3 years ago, it was not really common having decaf back home. So in here, it's like, okay, now I can enjoy my cappuccino or vanilla latte, but decaf. Yeah, I don't think it's kind of like changed the perception of reality or anything that or at least that does not have that effect on me. But I definitely feel like I'll be a lot more productive and I could see, you know, the world in a like on a brighter day after I have a cup of coffee, I guess. But also I'm addicted to chocolate. But I'm trying to, not to have too much sugar, I guess.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We're all very, very
Yeah.
sensible. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I mean, I remember kind of being introduced to, coffee of a like some background on I grew up, in the UK and,
Yeah.
like started having cups of tea from the age of probably 11 or 12. And at the
Yeah.
time we'd, we'd stir in a spoonful of sugar and my parents would drink instant coffee. I guess occasionally they would have
Mm.
well, a special coffee percolator or something at home, but we just didn't have
Yeah.
in the UK, they didn't have these sort of high street coffee shops. I don't. No one had heard of a cappuccino. I don't, or an,
Yeah.
any, or an espresso. Um, and I kind of like over time, I think I sort of cut out the sugar. I mean, I was generally very interested. I'd love having a cup of tea and a chocolate bar. And I remember doing like when I was at university and particularly like
Yeah.
postgraduate studies, I would be in the course of a day alternating between. I mean, I would want to have a hot drink every pretty much every hour or so. I would want to be like, and I would, in order to mix the flavor, I would alternate between having tea or having like an instant coffee, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and
Hmm.
forwards. And that was, I remember my dad, he would drink like, huge, like 7 or 8, but these were just the instant coffee, and I don't
Yeah.
know how much caffeine they really had in them. But then
Yeah.
so I moved to Japan, and that was where I first really
Oh,
encountered
nice.
because Starbucks kind of like wasn't really in the UK at that time. This is like
Yeah.
back in
Ah.
1999 or 2000 or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. And then so
Mm-hmm.
I started having that, the espresso based coffee and got, really into that.
Mm-hmm.
And, then for many
Mm.
years, I would always be having, like that kind of coffee morning and afternoon. And exactly like
Mm.
I would find that if I tried to give up, I would get a headache. And I was definitely completely addicted to it for many
Yeah.
years. But I have now pretty much I had a really, really proper break from it the last 3.5 years and switched exclusively to decaf. And as you say in the UK, I think we actually do have some quite nice
Yeah.
decafs. And I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
I really relate to what you're saying about the taste thing. Like during the course of the day, and I need like a different day. I will still every hour, hour and a half. I want that thing, but it will be tea or it will be the decaf coffee, and I'll switch backwards and forwards. And I need the taste. I also need,
Yeah.
but I'm sipping water absolutely as well. But it's yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was so surprised at the week when Sam Day was talking about like I mean I certainly have found that I do want these pieces of chocolate, but I've switched now, partly because I had like a sort of medical thing. I've switched to this sugar-free chocolate. There's this,
Ah.
I mean, maybe one day they'll sponsor the show. But they're called
Oh.
Wizard's
Wait.
Chocolate, and I mean,
Yeah.
it has got what's the word? I mean, they've got white and dark, which is amazing, and they have got what is it? I mean, I'm not sure that how much I trust all these artificial sweeteners. It does have artificial sweetener in it in order to
Yeah.
make it. Oh, wait a sec. I'm just looking at this. My
Yeah,
world is
but
ruined.
then
It says cocoa butter sugar. It's this one's got sugar in it. I thought this was like supposed to not have any sugar.
oh
Oh my
wow, now we
goodness.
know,
Okay,
now we
right. Sorry,
know.
sorry. My whole
No,
world
no, but
is
I think if you don't want to have like a sugar and chocolate, you can just do dark chocolate, right? But I know like dark chocolate is not for everyone.
no. So sorry. I'm my sort of my world is because they definitely have a non-sugar chocolate. But I think I this was the thing. Okay, there we go. Well, that's all that. Sorry, my world is my perception of
Well,
my the perception of my world has been destroyed. Here
truth
and
is
now.
hard.
Oh no. Anyway, but that's yeah.
No, you've been
I
deceived.
oh dear. I do love to have a kind of a little bit of chocolate with the coffee, what have you, and I always sort of try and restrict it. I mean, do you
Ah.
find yourself though, like if you haven't had the chocolate, you feel weird, or you there's a temptation to eat more?
No, I think chocolate is I think I'm still managing it. Like yeah, I'm not like super craving chocolate unless, the time of the month, and I'm
Uh,
about to have my period, then it's gonna be like, oh, I really crave chocolate, but I
mm,
usually don't crave that much. So
right.
I'm still fine with chocolate. But with coffee, and here's the thing, I just found like a couple it's like so if I don't drink coffee,
Mm,
I will have headache. And then people will be like, you can just take paracetamol, the
mm,
medicine. But
mm,
I insist not to take paracetamol because I know this sounds stupid, but I insist not to take paracetamol because I don't want to be addicted to paracetamol.
mm,
So I want this headache to go by themselves, to be gone
mm.
by themselves without paracetamol. I know it's stupid. So I've been asking like some my flatmates back in Edinburgh. She is a med school student, and I asked her like, "Hey, do you think like paracetamol is addictive?" And she's like, "No," but I kind of like, can I trust you?
Well, I
I
mean,
know it's just like stupid, but I was like, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's obviously there's like there are medical terms for addictive, but I think part of the reason so I for this kind of like 3.5 years and I'm kind of gradually easing myself back is I gave up all alcohol, caffeine, and painkillers because what I had found
Ah,
in the past is that there would be kind of a pattern, not every night, but like for example, Friday night, Saturday night, I would have drinks, or actually during COVID, it was mainly
yeah.
every night, and then so I'd have alcohol in the evening, and then the next morning. I'd have a bit of a headache, and so I would take like paracetamol and I would drink
Okay.
coffee to kind of get going. And it was just basically this
Yes.
pattern where I was doing all of those things continuously, and I just it was like I think I'm overextending myself. And I think it's different when you're young and your body's a bit. You might not believe it, but I'm a little bit older. As you get older, I like
Yeah.
the danger for me of drinking coffee and taking the painkillers and so on is it means I will think I have more energy than I actually do, and then I will overdo
Mm.
it. And then I'm then stuck on this thing of always needing, independently of the, addiction or whatever, but in the sort of lifestyle, I end up becoming completely reliant on these things
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
overexerting myself. So yeah,
Which is
it's
addiction, I guess, like relying on things which is like addictions in a way. I
sounds
don't know.
sounds
Yeah,
like
I feel
addiction to
like
me.
I don't want to rely on painkiller, but I know sometimes I need it. So I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, anyway.
yeah, I mean, this is the thing. But for me, having had this big break, I now feel a lot more in control, and I think
Yeah,
also, but
yeah,
I'm now like, so I did have some coffee this morning because I was just and yeah, now sometimes on a Sunday I'll allow myself. We have a wine with lunch, and
yeah.
I might have some coffee afterwards.
Okay.
But it feels like it's much more under control than it used to
Yes,
be.
yes, of course, of course. Yeah, but it takes some time, right? I mean, you've been doing that for like 3 years and a half. But I
Right.
think if I wanna, reduce my caffeine, I probably need like, I don't know, a few months or maybe a year or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think well, it's great that you've got the decaf available and that
Yes.
that control. As I said, particularly,
Yep.
as I say, after later in the day, it can really stop you sleeping. Well, I mean, let us, shall we, dive into our final question, which is some people say it's the big question. For me, it's just a fascinating question. I hope it's not intimidating. It can be interpreted as in a simple way as just what gives your life meaning. But I ask the question, what does it all mean? This life, this universe, this everything. Is it a strange computer game that someone set up for us to play? Is it dreams in the mind of God? What's it all about? Do you have any thoughts or ideas on what this strange life we are leading is?
This is a philosophical question. Yeah, and I think like everyone has a different way to answer this, a different thoughts of this. and it may also relate to to someone's belief. For example, because I believe I'm a Muslim, so I believe in the afterlife. For example, like
Oh,
we live here only for few years. Yeah, maybe like some people believe 25 years, but some people can live until like 100 years and so on. And then we die, and then there's an afterlife and so on and so forth. But also other beliefs have a different belief. But also some people believe like, okay, life is just life. And then when we die, then we die, and then it ends and so on. Or maybe there is a belief in reincarnation. Like, people die and then we may be reincarnated as a cat, which is nice. Or a puppy. Yeah, I feel like the meaning of life to me is more like helping each other, I guess. I guess because like we live together and then we just respect each other and live in peace and helping each other and just, do our best and enjoy life and then be a nice person. I guess I don't know if this kind of like answer because I've never really thought of it as like what is the meaning of life? To me, it's like when God gives me life or when the universe gives me life, it's like it's opportunity for me to enjoy and then to be kind to other people. But also I try not to think about it, to be honest. In a way that so I've been trying a lot because as in general I'm an overthinker.
mm,
I'm an overthinker and I have a lot of like, oh, I used to dwell a lot with the past and then worried a lot about the
mm,
future. I am still worried about the future. So at the moment, what I'm thinking is like life is the present and then we're doing our best right now and then we're enjoying what we have right now and then just be grateful and then tomorrow is gonna be a new day, it's gonna be a new life. So just enjoy and live in the moment and be in the moment. So I guess like life is like, yeah, you enjoy yourself and then be a good person, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's wonderful, and I mean, it's you know, fantastic sentiment, and I can also see it connected through all of what you're saying, about your experience of people laughing and so on, and that's absolutely lovely. Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm, you know, I sort of like my parents were both sort of agnostic, and I didn't really have any spiritual or religious
Yeah.
input growing up, particularly. I'm not strongly atheist. But my father was a scientist, and I grew up studying science, and so
Yeah.
like into like I mean. You know, I grew up in the UK, and there was a sort of religious component at school that was, sort of Protestant religious Church of England kind of, but it wasn't particularly
Yeah.
that. It was a state school, but there was some religious influence there. But I just, I remember them having a timeline in the Bible, and I was like, this is different from our biology textbook. I'm not sure that I believe in that, but I think as
Yeah.
I've got older, my mother introduced me to thinkers like Eckhart Tolle, who also talks about
Mm.
reincarnation and ideas of afterlife and these sorts of things. And I think, well, one of the biggest things is I think science comes from this materialist perspective, which says, there is
Mm.
the material world, and then there's us, and we're in it, and that's it, and like you say, nothing after. Whereas I think there's this. I think this comes from a bit of a Buddhist perspective, but also many different religions have this
Yeah.
idea that it's consciousness first. That there is consciousness, and then
Yeah.
that actually allows the material world to exist. And ironically, you can't actually prove it one way or the other. Like science as it
Mm.
stands, the kind of like the Big Bang, something had to come out of it. You got one big miracle, and then everything else is explained afterwards. But there's kind of like, or material versus. You can't actually prove. What I mean, you can do things with science, like you can say, oh right, we've got these very detailed mathematics
Yeah.
that predict exactly when Venus is going
Yeah.
to move,
Yeah.
or Mercury, what have you. And so you think, okay,
Yeah.
we've got lots of explanatory power from those mathematics, but none of that mathematics actually tells us that there is or isn't. And I think a true scientist is open to every possibility.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm interested because I don't understand so much about Islam. Is what does if you're willing to talk about it, what does the
Yeah.
afterlife mean to you? Is it just that it's kind of like
Yeah.
the soul will continue to exist in some form after you die, or is it more complicated than that?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is at least like what I was taught in school.
Mm,
So basically, like after we die, our soul will be like in the like up
Right.
there, like in the sky or something, our
Mm,
soul. And
mm.
then there will be I don't know how it is called, but it's more like a judgment day
Oh
where,
yeah.
yeah, like when are you doing a lot more good things or bad things in
Mm,
the world, and then based on that, you're going to heaven or going to hell, and then that's it. So
mm,
basically, like if
mm,
we are talking about like I'm still, I have like this is gonna be a lot longer conversation than this, but that's what I was taught. Like,
mm,
okay, then we do good things in the world, in on earth, and then after we die, and then we'll go to the heaven. That's basically what I was taught,
mm.
as a Muslim when I went to Islamic school and in my primary school. Although I have so much more, as I grew older, I'm like, is it fair? Is it fair if we're doing a good things on earth just because we are waiting for the
Mm,
reward? I feel like regardless if they're heaven and hell, regardless they're existent, we still have to be a good person anyway. I
mm,
feel like it's a bit very, you know, it's a bit, I don't know how I did the word, but it's kind of a bit like transactional. If
mm.
okay, I wanna be a good person on earth because I wanna go to heaven, you know. But I
Yes.
feel like regardless, you have to be a good person because that's how we are supposed to be. So that's why, like, with the afterlife, like I believe in that. But again, how belief about afterlife affects my behavior on earth, that would be like a completely different conversation. And I also have like so much more thoughts about that, as I grew older. When I was a kid, obviously, like I believe in that and like, oh, okay, I want to go to heaven. So that's why I should not steal my mom's money. So I've never done that. But again, I feel like at some point it's just sometimes it's just be used. I don't know if this is controversial, but this kind of things could be used to be like. I remember my dad used to say when I was a kid, like, you have to help your mom do your laundry so that you can go to heaven. Everything is about
Mm.
like everything's about the math, everything's about the calculating between heaven or hell. And it usually like, it kind of like stressed me out when I was a kid. But now as I grew older, and then I kind of forget the motivation about hell and heaven, and I'm like, I want to just do good for people. I want to help people. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people happy just because I want to do that. I want to do good things because I want to be good, and I want to be a good person, not because of something that my parents have indoctrinate to say indoctrinate the word. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have like taught me since I was a kid. Well, I wouldn't say it was wrong. It's probably the best that they could do to teach me Islam, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing. Well,
This is yeah.
it reminds me of a story that they taught that I think my head teacher in primary school told. I think he did about the difference between heaven and hell, and he talked about like a guy being let into heaven, and they were saying, well done, you've been a great person, and he was like, just I'm really interested. Could I, before enjoying heaven, could I see what hell is like? And they're like, oh,
I've
that's a bit
heard that
odd. And he says,
story.
have you
Yeah.
heard this? You've heard the story, and he
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
down. And just for the listeners who maybe haven't, so he goes down. They get the team down, and he goes to and there they are in hell, basically these big tables, and basically everybody has a little bowl of rice in front of them, and they have these 6 foot chopsticks. And I remember at the time,
Mm,
the before they even started the story, the head teacher,
mm,
because we didn't know what chopsticks were necessarily, he was busy explaining what chopsticks were, but they're basically like,
mm.
so long, they're like 2 pool cues, and
Yeah,
basically all the people were starving because they couldn't use the chopsticks because they were too long to get the rice out of the
yeah.
bowls, and it was just horrible and awful. And the guy said, "Well, thanks very much. I'm glad I've seen that. Because we can go up to heaven." And then he went up to
Mm.
heaven, and it looked exactly the same. There were all the big tables. Everybody had rice in front of them. Everybody had these enormous long chopsticks, but they were all feeding each other.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's it's interesting. Like I think our experience of this life now can be hell-like or heaven-like depending upon how much we help each other.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
much nicer motivation, isn't it, than, oh, I'm going to get something
yeah.
for me later. It's just, if
Just
we're
make,
being
yeah.
nice to each other and we're being helpful, then we help create, I think it sort of reflects back on, it sort of self supporting. I'm not,
Yeah,
you've used these.
exactly.
You've used these. You're saying transactional, indoctrinate. My vocabulary is failing. I think non-native speaker. Your English is amazing, and I'm being put to shame. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
also like just a little bit on it, or maybe the heaven is just now what we have now on earth. It's probably our heaven. So
well.
yeah,
Well, and I think it's this interesting thing that I mean I spend all my time listening to this guy Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he pulls in kind of like I mean people love or hate him or whatever, but he pulls in different ideas from Christianity and Buddhism and Islam and so on, and he sort of talks about a concept of God that's very different from the thing we might have heard in school for you in Indonesia or me in the UK, is the idea that God's not a person who's sitting there in the clouds casting judgment on us, that like God is this kind of like it's like the sort of source of the universe in the same way that he talks about it's like an analogy with the sun. Like there is the sun, it gives all
yeah,
this life, and then like a ray of sun hitting, well, it's sort of part of the sun, but it's not really the sun. But like
yeah,
kind of our consciousness is kind of like, it's almost like there is sort of like there's a universal consciousness, which is kind of like the
yeah,
God consciousness, and then actually we're all just different, elements of that, and kind of like our individual lives are almost like the universe playing hide and seek with itself.
yeah,
Like you've got this sort of like extraordinary, like unfathomable, infinite consciousness. I almost think about it into comedy, like the infinite realm of ideas, like all jokes and all thoughts and all concepts kind of exist in principle, even if they haven't come into our
yeah,
world yet. They all
yeah,
like the same with the mathematical, like, there might be a number that's so high that no one's ever said it.
yeah,
Right, but it still exists
yeah,
in principle, and so like all of these concepts kind of exist, and then like myself, like my father, my son, my friend down the road, that we're all sort of like like our personalities are like really complex mathematical functions, and every conceivable complex mathematical function exists in some form or another, and then just like
yeah,
we're of all the possible things that could exist, we're these little brief. I mean, it is, you mentioned about how short it is. With these, I mean, I'm just sort of overwhelmed sometimes when I think about the scope of history and how many people have
yeah,
had kids
yeah,
before and how many people have died and how in
yeah,
the future and what have you,
yeah,
with these tiny little soap bubble pops of just like, but it was like one little mathematical function after another. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but it does like kind of unpick some of my scientific assurity, okay, that it's just a
yeah,
pure material world, that I was like there maybe is some kind of bigger something which, like
yeah,
we are ripples on the ocean, and that when our ripple fades away, we'll go back to understanding what it means to be the ocean.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
There,
yeah.
well, I've waxed lyrical. It's time to promote your stuff, I think. It's been a fantastic
No,
conversation.
you might be thinking of like, what's the meaning of life for me? Anyway,
But no,
maybe the next podcast will be 1 hour on the meaning of life.
well, maybe we need to start a new one where we focus just on that. But no, I mean, I'm rattling on there. I love your meaning of life, where you're talking about helping each other, and I think that's a wonderful, that's a wonderful. We can't hold that up high enough. But I'm sure our individual listener, Michael, is like just going absolutely nuts, wanting to know, where can he or she or they or them, I don't see species, I don't know, where can our listener see, hear, experience more of your comedy online, in
Yeah.
person? Where should they go?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so if you all want to see what I've been doing and then, get to know my journey, because on my Instagram I posted my very first gig and until my recent one. So you could also see my journey and how
Wow.
I think I have improved myself, hopefully. So I am on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is at malika.mal. So Malika.Mal. Or if you just search Amalia Fuadi on Instagram, you will find me. So yeah, yeah, thank you so much. I don't have any like shows or anything to promote. Hopefully at some point. But if you go to my Instagram, you will find some of my little jokes and stories about how I grew up as an Indonesian woman, Muslim, and now living in the UK.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I very much enjoyed your comedy on Instagram. So I absolutely encourage our one listener, Michael, and maybe he can go and find some other listener friends and take them to indeed your Instagram, and
Yes,
we'll get that precise Instagram link
exactly.
in the show notes, just for people who want
Thank
to
you.
click through.
Yeah, and then like if you just like follow me on Instagram, you will see like where will be my next open mic and so on and so forth. So hopefully, yeah, get some of you there.
Wonderful.
Support live comedy.
Wonderful. Well, thanks everyone. And remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, that's this podcast, by following us on Spotify. Do follow us there. That helps the algorithm, like get us into other people's brains. And you can ask questions and add comments there. And we did actually have a previous guest Gareth Beavis, just commented on previous guest podcast, Nikki G's podcast. And I was like, yes, brilliant comments in the Spotify section. So do get on in there and join in the fun. And we look forward to being in your ears again real soon. Last word to our fantastic guest, Amalia Fuadi.
Yes. I would like to read something. This is not just one word, but a few words, few sentences actually. But this is something that I really like and uh, used to be on my wallpaper on my phone all the time. So this is from the book called 40 Rules of Love. This is one of the quotes that is there. So I'm gonna read that. Um, God is a meticulous clockmaker. So precise is his order that everything on earth happens in its own time, neither a minute late nor a minute early. And for everyone without exception, the clock works accurately. For each, there is a time to live and a time to die. So I really like this quote because sometimes I'm impatient and then I'm trying to rush things. But now every time I read this quote, I'm like, okay, I have to trust the process and then do my best, and then, the time will come. So yeah, if you are dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with imposter syndrome, too much scrolling on social media, and then you feel like why everybody else going ahead in the faster than we are, but remember, like, you also have your own time, so keep doing and then keep going and keep doing your best.